Welcome to another Sunday show with Neil de Beer, the president of the United Independent Movement, and me, Chris Steyn. Morning, Neil.
Yeah, Chris, morning. Can't wait for our Sundays. Got a long email from a gentleman in Joburg that said that he has now decided we are the new carte blanche for him on a Sunday. And what an honor and what a privilege to be held at such a great esteem that people now look at us to summarize with the truth on a Sunday. But Chris, before we go, I would like to do two things. Number one, it is Father's Day today. And from the Sunday show, may I wish every granddad, every father, the greatest day in memory. And may the children spoil you to death because, our fathers are renowned to be the people that stand strong, that lead the house, and that must always be the solid rock with the mom. But today is Father's Day. Being a granddad myself, I am going to be demanding to be spoiled just for today. And I think that's important. So from us, happy Father's Day. And then Chris, a very important day, the Protea cricket team are the champions of the world. For the first time in 2 decades, we have not won an international cup. But yesterday, sweet victory over Australia in London, and to every single member of the Protea cricket team from us at the Sunday show. Yes, and well done. You're taking us into a good mood week.
I think I laughed because I baffled viewers last week by wishing South Africans a happy Father's Day. Of course, my head was in another country, Austria of all places. Don't ask. Let's start. The National Dialogue and the Eminent Persons Group.
A good chef told me one day, how do you stuff up a chicken? Roasting or putting a chicken together for lunch is the easiest thing on earth. You either boil it, you fry it, you grill it, but you can't actually stuff up a chicken. Chris, how do you stuff up a national dialogue? I mean, we have been speaking of this miraculous new line in the sand for a South Africa that is being battered by not only outside forces, but inside. And Chris, you and I have momentarily spoken every third or second week, not specifically on this program, but in person about this national dialogue. And at a stage, we were saying to each other, this thing's not going to happen. I think it is too intrinsic. It is too difficult at this stage in this country. And there's too much lies and too much absolute skullduggery for the national dialogue to happen, because I think the country would get up there and instead of giving a national dialogue would be giving a national lambasting. So here it came. You and I have had theories of how this national dialogue should happen. What is the national dialogue about and what is the agenda? But more than that, what is the outcome that will be sought after on a national dialogue? Now, Chris, I will now explain what I was hoping for in a national dialogue. When you talk about a national dialogue, it means that every single area geographically, every single differentiation of a nation, a language, a grouping, an organization, an industry, but more importantly, a person, a civilian, should be able to be reached by this national dialogue. Point 2, I was looking at what we would call a massive annual roadshow, where the national dialogue will be taken province to province, and if they had to have 45 of them, In other words, 5 in a province, so that the province can be saturated and that these mass dialogues could be done so that for once and for all, every person attending, the civilian people attending, the people, would be able to come to a hall and say their say, where white and black can for once stand up and say what is in their poison chalice. That we can look at each other as black, as Indian, as white, as colored, as Khoisan, and get up and say, since this date, this is how we feel. Because that's what we missed. And I thought a great idea to put a panel together, and they would go across the country and engage with the people of South Africa. Boy, was I wrong. Cyril Ramaphosa has now, in my opinion, appointed a pre-tactical team for the build-up of the ANC elections so that they can look good, so that the national dialogue can in actual fact be this little poodle paraded by the president, run by the vice president, with all his cohorts and selected people that are there on the panel and will be saying what to reconcile this country. Chris, that's what the national dialogue should be doing. It should be building on the TRC. And you know my opinion about the TRC. The truth came out, but we didn't get to the R in reconciliation. We've been stumbling on this, on God's will and a miracle. And now the country's come to the end, and now you want to national dialogue. And look at the people he's put on that panel. The ZCC Church. With all due respect, a rugby captain, a Bafana coach, people from politics in the past, Rolf Meyer. He's put on there people that are artists, and he's left out the Afrikaners. Yes, he's left out people like Kali Kriel, people like the Afrikaner, born people like the Afrikaner. There's none. So when you look at this, and you look at the compilation of the people, I've looked at every name, academics, flaky blasters. Chris, this is shocking of who he has put on a panel to so-called bring in the national debate. The people of this country want to talk. The plumber, the bricklayer, the nurse, the policeman, the architect, the builder, the construction owner, the business owner, the people that make this country work. And who does he go put up there? Professor Dr. Johan, Dr. Professor Dominee. And then they tell us the bill. They tell us how much this is going to cost. 700 million rand. The minute I was told that this is going to cost us $750 million, a shudder came through me, and all I heard was Zondo, 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 Zondo. 1.3 billion in absolute nuts. Here goes another 700 billion. 700 million. For what? 700 million rand to do what? Sit under tents, speak a lot of crap, talk about issues we already know about, but exclude Joe Soap. So in all, Chris, I know that I am highly critical, but this is shocking that we're going to have in August a little get-together in Daba. I don't even know what that means. And then we will have a panel, a national debate, and they'll bring out a document, another document for 700 million. And I'm sorry. Here's my words in Afrikaans. Ons is nou gatvol vir julle dokumente en julle procedures, commissions, and all of your meetings. This country needs leadership. It doesn't need conferences about leadership. And that's my opinion, Chris.
Then, in another stunning political development in recent days, Neil, the defection of the Democratic Alliance's Leon Jacobs to the Patriotic Alliance.
Yeah, thunderbolt. I think a thunderbolt in politics, not because of politics surprising us and that politics is not dirty and unscrupulous. It's not the defection of the kind of youth leader and one of the young, inspiring, up-and-coming DA members, Liam, that surprised me. It's how it was done and when it was done. Now, Chris, this must be shocking for the DA because he was a proponent of the DA. And here's the thing that puzzles me. Liam, who is obviously a rising leader, a person that has leadership quality, and I saw it from the day one, outspoken, not scared. I mean, you can just see his meetings in Parliament and his position in the Portfolio Committee of Sport, Arts and Culture. But Chris, here's the interesting thing. Not a week after, he goes for Gayton McKenzie. But he doesn't just go for Gayton. He actually insults him to the point where Gayton says to the Portfolio Committee chair that he must be protected because this young man, this child, is rude. And it comes from the questioning that Liam has ferociously climbed into SAFA with Danny Jordan, destroyed Boxing SA, and riddled questions to Netball SA. And I must tell you, I sat back every day and said, well done. Slaan hulle. Because what happens in those sporting federations is people think it's their own wallet. And I must quite be telling you forthrightly, I was impressed with this young man. But what was very odd was the battle between him and Gayton McKenzie, where he actually was saying that Gayton McKenzie's party is a dictatorial party, that Gayton McKenzie rules, that people get hired and fired in Parliament like he wants to, and he set that on record. And that is what spurred that public debate. And because I thought, oh, these two are never going to get on, which is not a bad thing because then he knows where the lines are and he doesn't fear him. Lo and behold, it's not a week later, shockingly, we hear of the walkover of the very same Liam Jacobs who just roasted Gayton and the PA that he's joining. Now, I would love to be a small fly on the wall where people would be sitting at the DA, in specifically the leaders that brought Liam into the DA, and find their thoughts, because no matter how they sell it, this is a blow to them on a public relations platform and very specifically on an insider role of a member of Parliament that was probably in their leadership program walking over to their mortal enemy. Because I can tell you there's no love lost between Helen and Gayton and the Patriotic Alliance. This is clear. So yeah, very interesting, pardon me, if Liam will now go to Parliament. Because there's processes, obviously. There's now a vacancy in the DA, in the National Assembly. They will have to fill that. And then they will have to now see if the PA will be ruffling up their naming lists to put Liam as a member of Parliament of the PA. There can be no other position for him because that would be the place they would like to put him with all the internal knowledge he has now of the DA to give them hell in Parliament.
Okay. Maybe we'll get a chance to speak to him this week and find out more, Neil. In the meantime, the fall of Floyd Shivambu at former President Jacob Zuma's MKP continues.
Ek dink hy het geval, ek dink hy het neergemoer. I mean, falling is probably swicking your ankle and lying down. This guy fell on his face. And what is very surprising is the way that he's handling it. That I always look at, I'm a human profiler. So I look at the body language, the things that he says, and more the things he doesn't say. What a fall from grace. What an absolute stab in the back. And it's all, in my opinion, about one thing only. It has nothing to do with his trip to Malawi. It was nothing to do with him going to spend a bit of time with Prophet Bushiri, who is a wanted and known criminal in this country. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with only one thing. Floyd Shivambu got on the wrong side of the Zuma clan. He got on the wrong side of the Zuma family, and in specific, he got involved with daddy's daughter, papa's daughter. And when you have a fallout with Duduzile and you are not a favorite, there's nothing worse than a woman's scorn. Let me tell you, she had the knives out for him. She didn't want him. And if the rumors are right, daddy's girl got what daddy's girl wanted. And that's my opinion. So they had to get rid of him. They used this Malawi thing as a breaking of trust and regulation. But surely, we don't have grass in our brain. We know this was this. So he's been moved to Parliament because of his wealth of experience as a parliamentarian. But Chris, to be removed as the Secretary General from a party to now a mere member of Parliament is not just a fall of grace, but must be shocking to himself as of having massive fortitude in his dreams of growing. What will be interesting, though, Chris, is will he go back to the EFF? And you will very clearly remember the press meeting of Chelitot Malema saying that he's his brother. And the words of Malema was, if he ever wanted to return to the EFF, that he is absolutely welcome and be welcomed back. Well, let's see. But a very interesting move again. And who will replace him as the Secretary General? Because I think, Chris, they've gone through 5 or 6 of them already in 1 year.
On to somebody who is still SG, the African National Congress's Fikile Mbalula, pouring scorn on those Patrice Motsepi-for-President rumours.
Yeah, he's showing himself. My opinion, though, is that strategically he's showing his cards too quickly. We have always said that people like Fikile, people like our Premier Lesotho, people like Paul Mashatile, people like Minister Mchunu, and the latest added to the list, Patrice Motsepi, are the people that are slowly but surely getting up within the ANC's leadership contestation, although it's very, very far away if you look at it in a calendar year prospect. It's end of 27. But I think, Chris, now that people like Fikile is getting nasty by him getting up and saying things about Patrice, which is the weekend statement that, people are just joiners and that in politics you've got to have experience and all that kind of stuff. First shots fired by Fikile. And that now lets the cat out the bag that the Secretary General, who's like the CEO of the ANC, not a very weak seat to carry, is going to contest. And he brings the danger not just of a rush now to the throne. But Fikile is not a nice guy at every second day. He can be quite facetious. And I am sorry that he's going to bring that facetiousness, daai kragkapper, daai totale stokkie in die skoen. I think he's going to start labeling and destroying people's character as it comes on, because that's the kind of politics that he plays. He plays a derogatory, attacking and character assassinating kind of thing. And it came out this weekend with his little bunny suit again. So, shots fired. Let us see what now comes back.
What did you make of the Shamila Batohi defense for the NPA's failures?
We just spoke about it last weekend. Chris, when you are sitting in one of the most primary seats that gives the citizenry of this country some or other format of stability, because I will repeat myself again, this country's future, except for the economic fight that we've got on, and just after I'm now going to say what I'm saying about Madame Beloy, I would like to read something to you, if I may, just to make you shock. The economic war is turning into a nuclear war in the sense of the economy, but the direct opposition to having to look at our economy is to look at our safety, security, and justice. I mean, there we go again. And we've been asking, is she good enough? Has she failed? She's in her last period of tenure. Has the MPPA failed? Has prosecutions not been successful? Well, we've said, absolutely, it's been a failure. And every time there's been that speculation that our Justice Department, specifically the prosecutorial area, has been politically invaded, has been influenced, she has said clearly, crystal clear, no, we have not been politically influenced. She said that every month, and specifically, Chris, in the past 2 months, where they've asked her to go. Now, I'll use one subject, because I have a little bit, as you know, of experience, of understanding the old scorpions and the hawks and those people. I don't know what's next. What animal are they going to use? The quagga? Or I'm not too sure. You know? I don't think people will be intimidated if you knock on the door and you say, hi, I'm from the zebras. But you know, Chris, it's been watered down. It's been absolutely slaughtered. And now, one of the most formidable cases under the Zondo Commission, and one that we would like to have bring to fruition, is a Magashule's case that we've got on the high roll, that we've got finally on the court roll, that we can bash at one of the gold tickets to take him to jail. The chief witness has now been exonerated because the judge in Bloemfontein said that she was removed illegally from the United States of America under so-called alleged lies by our prosecution. And therefore, because she was illegally removed and extradited to the Republic, she cannot be cross-questioned and be a witness. If you are the national prosecuting authority, these are the things that you should be prepared for. These are the documents that should be in line, that should be focused. You should have a team of your top 8 prosecutors running the process from extradition to appearance to the court. They stuffed it up, but not once. Twice now het hulle op hulle moer gekry in Bloemfontein. Bloemfontein raak baie koud vir hulle. Because they were told, then they appealed. Now they are trying to appeal the appeal. Daar's soveel appeale wat hier aangaan. Ons is die mekaar in 'n vregterslaai. We don't know where we are with appeals running around now. And now they're appealing again. They're doing that because they lost this case because of incompetence. And boom, Chris, the Christmas cracker goes off on Granny's head, where Madame Batohi says on a morning show that she fears that a part of the National Prosecuting Authority system has been invaded by unscrupulous people. What? She makes that declaration in public. And a day later, Cupcake Cyril, who eventually got petrol for his chopper to go to Umtata to see what happened in a devastating tragedy there, which I don't even want to comment on, because the one guy gets asked of the government, how do you explain the degradation of all of these buildings and infrastructure in Tata? And he says, well, it's a work in progress. You know what should be a work in progress? Your letter to get fired. 30 jaar om 'n pad te bou. Jou moer, man. Back to Baloyi. While
Batohi.
the president is walking around to see the so-called devastation of infrastructure failure in Mthatha, he turns around and gets asked about Baloyi's statement. And the
Batohi.
he says, no, I've got a meeting with her in the next 2 weeks. That's what he says. This is serious, Chris.
But then she backtracks.
This is not a matter to take lightly. This is a serious matter. If the MPA have been invaded by people that are unscrupulous and that are currently steering our legal and law system to get outcomes which they prefer, not that of justice, we better pitch our ears and we better take note.
But she's backtracked a little, hasn't she?
Yeah, you would. You see, you're plopping out, and when it's out in public and the president says, I'm going to see you, you would obviously tone it down. But what I said has been said, what has been told has been told. And you cannot run away from that now. I and you on this program, and I hope every other journalist, will now focus on the outcome of what she said, because that was not said in vain, in my opinion.
Still on crime, Neil, the assassination of underworld kingpin André Naude.
Yeah, just coming months after Mark Liffman. Chris, I've said this once. I'll say this again. South Africa is becoming Colombia. And if you go look at the history of Colombia, then you will absolutely be able to understand what I'm going to tell you now. And what a headline of our show it will be today. South Africa, the new global Colombia. Because in Colombia, gangs killed gangs, cartel against cartel. They then started shooting not just at cartel members, but they shot civilians. Children and civilians died because of the fights between the cartels. Then when they started shooting civilians and children, they started shooting police indiscriminately. They didn't care to kill police. The police then went to justice and said that the judiciary must climb in. So they started shooting magistrates and advocates and killing them. The judges then went to the politicians and said to the politicians, but we cannot run a country like this. So they took the head judge of Colombia and they blew his car up with him and his 5 bodyguards. And then, Chris, the politicians went and the judges got together and they said, you as the politicians better stop this. So they killed an aspirant presidential candidate and shot him to death while he was campaigning. Does that sound familiar? Well, in this country, children are being shot by gangsters. In this country, police are being killed every week. They already had an attempt on 2 advocates and 1 acting judge in his parking lot. But here's the thing, Chris. Cabinet ministers are not being killed. Presidents are not being assassinated. And you will remember at the end, at the death of Pablo Escobar, it was the police and it was the judiciary that got up and finally took him out. Chris, I'm sorry to tell you, but it seems that on a political level, they might be Pablo Escobar. So this country is falling apart. This country is becoming the new Colombia. And the fact that you can walk up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon without a mask, without a false cover, in the main street of Parow in Cape Town, and just shoot someone. Just walk up to a person who's an alleged kingpin in crime and shoot him. And get in your car, cameras or no, and just drive away. The fact that you can wait for a person at a mall, also in broad daylight, and shoot a person with a hunting rifle 5 times. at a shopping center. It's brazen. So we've got to sit back and say, what a beautiful country we've got. What a stunning, stunning citizenry. But every day amongst us is evil. And without us having a secure judiciary, a police service that is untainted, and we don't, Chris, because their major general of the police within crime intelligence is charged with an alleged crime, a general. And if the news on the ground is very, very clear, there are another few generals in the police that are going to be charged. So we've got the prosecuting authority sitting and moaning, the police collapsing, little Angie Motsepi clapping her hands nearly off her arms, because finally, even under technical difficulties, our poor soldiers, the first of them arrived last night. And she claims this as a victory. So I'm sorry, here we sit and we want to have a national dialogue, which Cyril says will now depict the future of where this country is going. Hey, cupcake, Cyril, we don't need to know where we are going. We need to know where we bloody are. Because if we don't even know where we are, we won't have an inkling to know where we're going. So, Chris, we've just... Ja, julle wou my mos gehad het op 'n Sondag voor koffie. Listen to this. Sorry, I'm too old to remember, maar ek is nog flynskerp. Ek sal hulle bliksem. Listen to this, Chris. We just got a loan approved by the World Bank for 26 billion rand. They're giving us 26 billion. Now I'm going to read you the following figures. You don't have to remember it. Just put it in your mind. 74.3 billion, 2020. 13 billion, 2020. 8.3 billion, 2020. 7.65 billion, November 2020. 17.4 billion, October 2023. 17.4 billion, April 21. 5 billion, July 2020. 3.7 billion, 2024, September. And 4.35 billion in 2024, January, with an accumulative of 178.8 billion that has been borrowed, linked, taken on behalf of the South African citizenry. Shocking. Shocking. Where's the money going? So when you look at it, Chris, the world loves us to be in debt, but the citizens don't. If you look at 200 billion that we've got to pay back, that's not just our only debt. So justice in trouble, the economy under threat, the debt book of this country nearly going into the black, the world not wanting to approve our investment status, and now you want to go have a national bloody dialogue to sit around the fire with marshmallows and kumbaya that's going to cost us a further 700 million. I think, Chris, it's time to sit back and have a national dialogue if the leadership of this country should still continue to be the leadership, or if we should call a national, urgent, not dialogue, but referendum, and ask for the removal of the current government and have a snap new election. Because I think this country, if it had an opportunity to say that we would like to have an urgent emergency intervention of a new election, I'll tell you that 90% of this country would say yes. And that's my opinion.
Neil, let's go abroad briefly. International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola condemning Israel's attack on Iran.
Yeah, I must be honest. I don't think he can condemn anything. I think the only thing he can condemn at this current moment is the one brain cell that's quite inactive. This man is a person that we had high hopes for. There was at a stage a rumor that this man would be looking at being a candidate, which Cyril Ramaphosa would school, nurture, and support. This is a man that used to be, if I'm correct, Chris, I stand under correction, he used to be the Minister of Justice. This is the man that also spearheaded the charges at the ICJ against Israel. This is the man who currently sits at international affairs, if I'm correct, and who's depicting what's going on in the world and no one wants to see him. This is the man that goes all the way to the White House, sits at the corner of a couch, and isn't even recognized. What's happening in the world, Chris, is there is a clear de facto war. The world's at war. Israel launches a huge strike of more than 1,000 pieces of munition dropped into Iran, and in specifically targeting the nuclear facilities of Iran. And the reason based for that is that they are refusing to have Iran get to weapons grade functionality. Because Iran has said, and you will agree through Ayatollah Khomeini, through everybody, that they would like to wipe Israel off the map of the earth. Immediately Iran responds, and as you saw this week, they retaliated. This is building up to a centralized Middle East conclave, which will have ramifications to the north, south, west, and east. And the battle lines are drawn. Calm has gone out of the window. And Benjamin Netanyahu, I think, has now gone and said, we will wipe Iran off the face of the earth. So we mustn't take that lightly. But Chris, if I can advise South Africa, let's not punch above our weight. Let's not again get involved in matters that we as a country can write out checks, but we can't give the credit that follows those checks. Chris, we're a small country. We have a failing defense force. We have a regaled budget. We have turmoil in our country, but still we have the prowess to go stick our nose into matters as high as the United States and a million-year war. My advice is become Switzerland. Stay neutral. Give advice, but don't get involved. Because, Chris, we can't afford that. We have problems of our own, and we can't even fix our own domestic problems. And I think it is unwise. There's a book called The Art of War. And in this book, it says, don't open too many fronts and charge too many enemies that you yourself cannot control. And unfortunately, if I have to look at it, this is exactly what South Africa is doing. It's opening too many fronts. It's taken on too many enemies. And that's why we are where we are. So, Mr. Lamola, I think you need to change the strength of your cups of tea in the morning.
Neil, I have a question here on this topic from a viewer wondering how much South African enriched uranium or South African skills contributed to the total of Iranian enriched uranium stocks.
Speculation is also sometimes good. It links with our word called allegedly. Now, because we must be under no doubt that this country had an atomic bomb. We know it. We know that it was identified and it wasn't even hidden away. In the period of transition, call it pre-94 to 94, It was one of the big matters that had to be discussed. So I believe with a fact and proof that we had a nuclear program and that we had nuclear capability. We might have come to the point where publicly we said that it was destroyed, it was dismantled, it was then moved away, and that the South African nuclear program was absolutely disarmed. The problem, Chris, is you can disarm, dismantle, publicly stop things, but your question is the people that built it, designed it, created it, are they still alive? And if that is so, that those professors in the white jackets that assisted in building the South African nuclear bomb are still alive and probably between the ages of 70 to 85. If they are still compos mentis, and I believe they are, that if they are still around, what was the capability of them with this great friendship between South Africa and Iran, that there wasn't certain documents, certain technical capability swapped with them? That will probably never come out. It is the other thing, like you and I sitting, Chris, every day and asking people, you say that Iran paid the ANC money to do two things, to take Israel to the court and to pay the salaries of their staff and go into an election. Chris, we've said this because thousands have said it. Mr. Rob Hersoff says it at every point and corner that, as a fact, Iran paid South Africa. We, as the Sunday Show, would like to have the same liberty in pronouncing that, but there's one thing you and I debate every single time it comes up. Chris, where's the evidence? If you and I are summoned tomorrow to go to court, and they will say to us, show us the bank transfer, show us the factual EFT, the cash transfer, the photos of the suitcases. I am sorry, Chris, at this current time, no one has sent me. I don't know if they've sent it to you. They've claimed
No. No. I'm still waiting for photographs of those bags of cash, Neil, and the youth handovers.
So
I just wonder, what would a regime change in Iran mean for the African National Congress?
There's something we don't have to dispute. There's something we don't have to speculate, and that is there is a relationship between Iran and South Africa. This is clear. This is not even on the table of a rumor. This is one of the reasons why Donald Trump and his current regime is putting pressure on South Africa. South Africa doesn't even keep it a secret. I mean, you will know Naledi Pandor visited Iran more than her partners in the National Assembly visits McDonald's in Kentucky. And trust me, that's a moose per dag. So what was discussed, what was put on the table, we don't know. But it's like sitting there and meeting with him, and you are telling us that it is absolutely all about infrastructure and line of pipes. Rubbish? Something's brewing. And that is going to be the tone set. But while Israel and now America is gunning up against Iran, I don't know if the people are now going to sit back and go regrets, because they were making friends. And allegedly, Chris, if money was paid to us, to the governing party, which they not, I think we are going to see a very interesting development. All that I'm asking is, please don't send our 3 canoes, our 1 Cessna, and our 14 current military operatives to go and help fight in Iran. We are not going to be successful, Angie Motsepi, because it takes you 3 months just to get troops back from battle.
Thank you. That was Neil de Beer, the president of the United Independent Movement, on The Sunday Show with BizNews. And I am Chris Steyn. Thank you, Neil.
Chris, thank you. And a pair of socks for Father's Day is not at all bad.
Bye, Neil.
Bye, Chris.